Hey guys, what's going on? This is Mina, and in this video, we're going to talk about my latest acquisition. And this is a 26-unit building in Sarnia, Ontario. We're going to show all the numbers, we're going to show how much we bought it for, and how much we expect to make on it in the next 6 to 7 months. So I have two other videos about Maxwell Street and Albert Street. Maxwell, purchase price $305, appraised at $1 million 9 months later. Albert Street, purchase price $130, appraised at $350 6 months later. If you want to watch those, we'll keep links somewhere up here. Anyways, a lot of people came to me, well, a lot, like 7, but some people asked me, well, you show the project after it's done. That way we don't know what you were thinking throughout the project and did you actually expect this result, which was a fantastic idea. So the purpose of this video is I'm going to dive deep into the numbers, show exactly what I purchased it for, exactly what I intend to do, and how much money exactly I expect to make after, let's call it 6 to 7 months. So this video will be broken down into 3 sections. The deal, how we got it, how we expect it to be, and what is the work required and the money required to reach to that end level. So without further ado, let's just get into the numbers. That's where the sexiness is. So this deal is on Wellington in Sarnia, Ontario, here in Canada. It's 26 units consisting of a 12-plex purpose-built and 14 townhomes in a row, like in an L-shaped row. The seller wanted $2.8 million for these 26 units. And I, like to pride myself in being a good negotiator, went and I negotiated hard. And guess what I got it for? $2.9 million. Okay, hear me out a second. Let's check the numbers and see if I made the correct decision or not. And anyways, we're doing the video before the fact, and in 6 or 7 months, the results will show and we'll see what happened. So, purchase price, $2.9 million. So I paid $100,000 over what the seller was asking.
Okay, Mina, you moron. Why did you pay over? You should negotiate down.
I understand. I always like to negotiate down. I always like to get a discount wherever I can. However, be very clear on one very important aspect, specifically in these multifamily purchases. Price is different than value. Price is what you pay, value is what you get for that money. This is a quote I think by Warren Buffett or something, but it really applies right over here. Okay, now why did I do that? So I did my research on the market, I found out the current income and the potential income in the future, and that massive value difference here just made it worth it for me. And let's dive in and see exactly what it cost. Purchase price, $2.9 million. $100K over asking, like a moron, even though there was no competition. Closing costs. There was $100,000 in closing costs. Now immediately you'll think, whoa, $100K in closing costs? Yes, with these bigger purchases, there's usually a bunch of costs involved. 60,000 of those were land transfer tax. I still don't know why it's so high. But anyways, that goes to the government. We're not talking to them. They're good people. We love them. The rest of it was appraisals, lawyer, inspection, lending fees. I used the Findlay mortgage team on this deal and they did great stuff for me, so I recommend you go check them out. Anyways, total $3 million. So what were the financials when we closed after paying this $3 million? So at closing, this is in December 2020, our gross rents were around $250,000 a year. So every year, this property collected $250,000 in rents. The expenses on that, according to the seller, was around $100,000. So that brings us to a net operating income of $150,000. So bear in mind, this net operating income does not include any mortgages or any debt. So this is just income minus expenses, which brings the cap rate of the building at 5.5%. That was important for appraisal purposes. So at the end, even though I paid a little bit higher, it was still within the normal range, so I was happy. Cool, fantastic, we closed, we high-fived, we did all the things. So now what? Okay, well now it's very easy. Now you gotta shut up and get to work. Because this thing is not gonna turn itself around. Now, we have a plan, we have a budget, we need to go to work to get the value that we require. So what does that include? First of all, you need to turn over units, meaning renovate the units and increase the rent of them.
Well, Mina, there's a lot of tenants. You can't get them out in Ontario. Ontario's
Okay, well, remember that 100K extra that I paid in the previous page here? Well, I didn't just give that for free. I realized while I was negotiating with the seller that he was really adamant on price. He did not want to negotiate anything about price. So once I increased the price for him, he was very happy and he was willing to help me in all directions. So in return for that $100,000, after my research, these were the rents on the building before. And after some research, we realized that some of these units could be rented from $1,100 to $1,200 even per month. So that is a significant difference between the current rent and the market rent. So I ran through my numbers on my trusty spreadsheet and I located the lowest 8 rents in the building. And I asked the seller, okay, I'm gonna give you this extra $100,000 so you can have more than you asked for. However, I would request from you to get me 8 units vacant. And I chose these 8 specific units to get vacant so I'm able to increase my net operating income and in return increase the value of the building. Don't really get too fixated on the price since there are other things that you could get to win. And there's no reason why you shouldn't win and let the seller win as well. Because that made the process so much easier for me. It was incredible. Like once I increased the price, it wasn't as if we were against each other. We were now working on the same team. Because I want to give him more money, he wants to give me more value, so everybody worked together. I was able to work on the property before close, I was able to get the vacancies. Great! So what is step 1? Turn over the units. So we closed, we had some vacant, and some had already signed forms to be vacant in the very near future. So we got right to work. What do? There's 2 parts to what we need to do now. Now step 2 is renovate and rent. Sounds easy. But wait, there's one very important factor. Before buying this building, there was a lot of people that wanted to purchase it or tried to purchase it or just didn't want to purchase it because of its location. There was a lot of drug activity in the building. There was not the greatest tenants. The property had some deferred maintenance. Not everything was fixed up. It wasn't in great shape. So then arose a very important question which kind of held me back from this property for quite a while. So was the building in the area that bad that it attracted bad tenants, which made the cycle worse? Or was the tenant profile the culprit here, which made the building worse, which made everything spiral down in terms of stigma and just the overall sense of the property? And for context here, I spoke to a lot of investors, a lot of locals in Sarnia, even property management companies. One of them told me word for word, anybody who has any self-respect will not live in that property. So you can see a lot of stigma, a lot of blah, blah, blah. So real quick, what did I do to mitigate that? I put my boots on the ground, I started walking around, I started talking to locals, I started looking at neighboring properties. There was no reason for this property to have that stigma. But still, I'm not a local, I don't know, maybe I'm never gonna be able to rent it. So I started walking around and got into businesses nearby. I walked into the business right across the road and I asked the guy, I'm looking to purchase this property and I'm not quite sure about the area. I've been hearing really bad things. So he told me, yes, it's not very good. I have terrible people that come and steal from me all the time. However, here's a very important tip that I learned. Always shut up and let people talk. Most people they just want to hear something and then they yap about. Like, don't listen just to yap back and answer. Just listen and absorb and understand the information that's coming out of this guy's mouth. So he was telling me that it was terrible. However, he also said that it was extremely worse back in the day. So 10 years ago, it was extremely horrible. 5 years ago, it was just horrible. Now it's just, it's not that good. So that shows me there's an upward trend in the place. So it's slowly turning over. Anyways, after that little story, let's get back to the numbers. Renovate and rent. So what do? We need to renovate. How do we determine the renovation budget? Do we just go in and change all the kitchens? No, this is where it's very important to keep your costs down and do not ever over renovate. So what we did is we put out dummy ads. What are dummy ads? We just put some ads up, say there's a 2-bedroom apartment in this general area with these general specifications and we need $1,200 for rent for it. And then we gauged the responses. To our surprise, we got a lot of responses. So it wasn't as bad as people say, even though there was a lot of people who cussed at us with the ads or just told us off, all the things. However, the fact of the matter remains, you need to focus on data, not just the random gibberish that people say. We put an ad up, we got 37 responses at our price. We did get 57 fuck yous. However, that doesn't matter. We did get responses. That means there is interest. So now we need to look at comps. There are other units that are out for rent for the $1,200 mark. So what do? We look at their finishes. Now we need to find the highest achievable rent to figure out how much we can rent this unit for. Number 3, calculate the difference between the current rent and the potential rent you will be getting. Important point, do not immediately resort to decreasing rent, try and increase value. So instead of dropping the price, increase the value in relative to the price that you're asking for. So add extra amenities, add laundry, add whatever you need to do to achieve the top market rent. Remember, these tenants are customers. This is a business and you need to attract good customers. So what do? You provide them with better amenities, better services, so you have a good relationship with the tenant, you attract the tenant profile that you want, and you turn over the whole building. Now to rentals. Rentals can be one of these things where it could make or break your business. So what we decided to do is standardize everything. So what does that include? All the materials are the same, all the paint colors are the same, every single thing is the same in all the units. So that makes everything easier for everyone. Number 2, hire in-house. So this is what we decided to do. After getting quotes from contractors and independent people, we found that it's much more cost-effective for us to hire in-house the people that we need to work for us. So we hired a lot of great people that were doing fast work at very reasonable prices with our standardized systems. This is crucial because you need to be able to predict how much a unit will cost without getting 7,000 quotes that are completely different. They're not apples to apples. You can't really compare. It's very tough to do that. And I used to do this mistake all the time. One trick that helped, we have now a standardized quote form. So if someone's gonna quote me on a job, he takes my quote form and fills it up. Example, if we're gonna do flooring and paint. So I give him a piece of paper that says we have 800 square foot of flooring, we have this much square foot of paint that needs to be done. What are your hours and how much do you charge per hour for this job? Some people might not like that, and that's cool. You don't have to work with these people. We need to find people that fit our business model and that will help us make this thing work. The last thing is negotiate everything. I understand. Some people will say, well, man, like it doesn't matter if you're gonna make this much. Don't care, like it doesn't matter what you're gonna make. At the end here, just forget about that for a second. Be really aggressive with your costs because the compounded amounts of these small little cost cuts along the way will amount to a large sum at the end of the day. So what is that? Negotiate everything.
Oh man, like some things are not negotiable.
I promise you, every single thing is negotiable. On this deal, I negotiated lawyer fees, lending fees, appraisal fees, everything. Everything is negotiable. We did the renovations, we did the research, blah, blah, blah. Great. How much money do we think we're going to make on this? Because this is our
July 2021 prediction.
So we got some units vacant, we fixed them up, we renovated them, blah, blah, blah. So how much are we going to make? This is the projected gross rents. $375,000. And that's not all of the building because I cannot turn over 100% of the building in this time frame. However, we were able to make sure that we're going to turn over between 70 to 80% of the whole building and achieve this gross annual rent. When we purchased it, the rents were about $250,000. So as you can see, there's a $125,000 increase in the gross rents. Well, how did we achieve such a high rent? Isn't this building garbage? Isn't it stigmatized? People who have no self-respect live there? Come on, man. Anyways, I have a partner who's a wizard with rents. So this $1,200 expected for a 2-bedroom, we actually got $1,375. Well, how did we do that? Again, remember the rule. Don't always resort to reducing the price, however, increase the value because you're aiming here for a certain type of clientele. This building has bad stigma, so what did we do? We added cameras to the exterior and interior. We painted the whole building on the inside. Even though that doesn't have any direct ROI, however, it elevates the feeling of the tenant when he's walking into your building. Again, remember, the tenant is your customer. Treat him with respect, give him enough value, and he will stay with you, he will pay his rent, and everything should be fine. Anyways, expenses. Let's look at the expenses. 5% repairs and maintenance, we keep that on the side, so that's around $18,750. 5% property management, even though we in-house that as well, I do not hire any more exterior property management companies Property tax, that one's a killer. It's $43,000 a year in property tax. Insurance, $9,000. Utilities is $12,000. Remember, tenants pay most of their utilities. We have a budget for garbage, it's $1,500 a year. Snow, grass, things of that nature, another $3,000 a year. And we put a budget for vacancies at about 3%, brings it to $11,250. What is all that? It's around $117,000. So, $375,000 in gross rents minus $117,200 in expenses. That's the NOI, remember? NOI is equal to, wait for it, $258,000. Well, is that all we made, $258,000? No, because look at what that does to the value of the building. This is the wizardry of multifamily real estate. This is extremely powerful. I don't know how this is even legal. Like, it's so powerful, these minor increases here and there, and look at what they do to the value of the building. Let's dive into it. Multifamily, as you know, are generally appraised by the cap rate. If you didn't know, cap rate equals NOI over the price. So in this case, $258,000. How do I know what value? We go back to the market. So what does the market dictate that the NOI is? I purchased at 5.5. Most people are purchasing between 5 to 5.5, some even lower than 5 these days. But let's be conservative. So now let's estimate the value and how much we're gonna make. Let's use 3 different options: 5% cap, 5.5% cap, and 6% cap. 6% cap, the value of the building would be $4.3 million. Now let's move to the 5.5% cap. At a 5.5% cap, the value is $4.7 million. 5% cap, $5.2 million. So these increases in rents, the renovations we did to the property, things of that nature, automatically increases the value of the property by this much. Was I an idiot to pay that extra $100,000? I guess we'll find out in July. So what is my profit here? Let's calculate that. We're gonna go with the middle option, 5.5% cap rate, just like I bought it. We're gonna assume no increases. We will disregard that the market now is crazy. We'll just remain with our conservative numbers. So 5.5% cap is $4.7 million. What did we buy it for, you ask? Great question. So 4.7, we're gonna deduct the $3 million we paid, 2.9 plus 100 closing costs. We have a budget of renovations of $150,000. Last thing would be holding costs. Because this money was borrowed and there was interest I had to pay for this duration of time, these holding costs were around $50,000 to $60,000. Is that it? No. There's one very important factor that I include in every single deal that I do. What is this factor, you say? Mina is an idiot factor. Yep. I always know that I'm gonna fuck up somehow. I'm going to miscalculate. I'm probably gonna overspend somewhere. Something is gonna come up. So I always have Mina is an idiot fund. That fund here is $100,000. Even though my renovations are only $150,000, I always keep another $100,000 because I'm still learning. 2020 was my first year in real estate, so I can't expect everything to go by the book. So I keep $100,000 for me to screw up, and still the deal works. And I encourage you, you might not be as much of an idiot as I am, however, always keep a fuck up fund. That's fine. You probably might fuck up. It's better to have that fund than not. So what's the profit on this, you say? $1.4 million. Do you understand how ridiculous this is? $1.4 million in 6 to 7 months with zero of our own money down. I'm very confident in this number or something really close to it, either above or below, because I did my due diligence properly, because I have the proper team in place, because I have a fantastic partner who knows exactly what to do and where to do it. We have our clearly defined roles and everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. The second thing is we are really aggressive with timelines. I think Gary Vee was saying that. Be extremely impatient with your day-to-day, however, be really patient with your bigger picture. So every single day matters. Be very consistent, follow up, have clear deliverables for the people you hire, and finally, negotiate everything. Everything. We're gonna do another follow-up video on this with all the receipts, with the appraisals. We'll show everything along the way. And in July 2021, I'm gonna show you how we actually made this happen. These are real numbers, real buildings, real timelines actually happening right now. So what do we get out of this? In 6 months? Well, either I'll show you how this happened, I'll explain everything that happened along the way, what are the mistakes you can expect, and most importantly, did I use up the Mean as an Idiot Fund. 2020 was a fantastic year for me. First year in real estate, I was able to achieve 80 plus units in that year. This year, I'm planning to scale. I partnered up with Jamie, and we both have a really aggressive goal. Our goal for 2021, and please for the love of God keep us accountable, is 100 units just for 2021. However, the main challenge remains how to scale, how to hire properly, and how to create systems and processes to scale at the fastest speed without compromising any of our core values, which is we're very efficient, we're very fast. Yeah, I didn't ask you to like, I didn't ask you to subscribe, but like, come on, I'm gonna do all this shit. Help me out with a like or subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in July. Well, obviously I'll post before July, but you know what I mean. Thank you, cheers.